Hi, welcome to the Ellis Talker Show. Do you need stuff done to your roof or just in general, a general contractor? Look up K&H Contracting. They're a local company here in Ellis County. Been around a long time and they can help you get your repair needs done. But today, my very special guest is Mr. Ryan Christensen. How are you, sir?
Doing really well. Thanks for having me on. It's an honor.
Thank you so much for coming on, brother. And like I told you offline, I tell you online, thank you so much for serving this country in uniform. It is a beautiful thing, and I thank you for that. Can you go ahead and just give a little 30,000-foot view of you to my audience?
Sure. So I spent most of my life trying to do the whole saving the world thing, national security. So Marine Corps for 5 years, Air National Guard for another 6, working intelligence, both those. Did another 16 years in Washington, D.C., working counterterrorism and counterproliferation. 2020, I decided saving the world wasn't working because the world doesn't want to be saved. So I decided to start working with people one-on-one. I got certified as a hypnotist at the beginning of 2020. Everything shuts down. So I've got all this time on my hand, ended up working with a bunch of people online, got talent for it. Started my business at the end of April 2020, went full-time in October of 2020. I've been doing this full-time ever since.
Wow. That's quite a journey from intelligence and doing that number. And even from Marine Corps to Air National Guard, you wanted to show them how to do things.
I figured after 5 years in Marines, I deserve to pay vacation.
Yes, that is definitely a change of pace, Ryan. Yep. So out of all the things, why hypnotist? What led you there?
Sure. So 2018, I went through my second divorce. 2019 rolls around. I'm trying to do the dating scene in DC, and the dating scene there is just absolutely horrible. So got in with a couple of men's groups, started trying to figure out the whole dating thing and self-improvement. And one of the groups, there's a guy who was a hypnotist talking about emotional baggage, toxic shame. I'm raised Catholic, got some of that. So I went ahead and did a session with them. I was like really impressed because afterwards, everything just felt lighter. It's like you're carrying around 50 pounds of stuff in a backpack, get rid of 30 pounds, everything's just easier. And about that time, I was looking for the next big thing. The intelligence thing was just like not really working for me anymore in terms of fulfillment. And I thought about becoming a psychologist, but that was going to take 6 years and $500,000 to get done. Unappealing in your 40s. But I got certified as a hypnotist in 6 weeks for $2,000. So I went ahead and dipped my toes in there. And what I found is, especially through all the self-improvement work and stuff I did between 2019 and 2023, everything worked. Everything worked. Every single modality, tried them all, like spirituality and therapy and cognitive behavioral therapy and like coaching and psychedelics and hypnosis and the whole 9 yards. And all of them worked. But all of them had a limitation, right? There's always a limit to what they could do. They could never really deliver what they really promised. Okay. So talk therapy can't really touch the subconscious mind. Psychedelics give you an idea of what's going on down there, but you can't really do a whole lot of work down there. Everything's got a limitation. So for me, what really seemed to work was using a lot of these different techniques to kind of understand what the problem is. But hypnosis was always the tool that really let me do the real work, because 90% of what's going on is in the subconscious mind. That's the part of your mind that's interpreting reality, driving all your emotional reactions, driving all your behaviors, driving all your thoughts. So instead of trying to deal with it on the back end, on the receiving end, why not figure out why it's being generated that way? If we fix how it's generated, I don't have to deal with it on the back end. So that's why I started doing a lot more work with hypnosis, sort of developed my own modality over the past few years. And it just seems to be the most effective tool.
Now, as somebody who's been in the military and in this day and age, I'm sure you didn't leave without scars. For me, there was obviously some PTSD that I've dealt with and a journey that went through that. Did you go through that journey too? And hypnosis helped you in some way?
No. So my journey through the military was I served honorably, but without distinction. I was in the Marine Corps from 97 to 02 as a Russian linguist. Never ended up deploying. My wife had some issues at the time that kind of prevented that. And the Air National Guard is working intelligence and never really got activated for anything. So my military career wasn't particularly big. The thing that drove me in terms of darkness and everything is I grew up in Kansas and knew from a very young age that the world worked for everybody else and not for me, right? Everybody else can get what they want. Everybody else can navigate this just fine. I can't. Whatever reason, I couldn't figure it out. And so by the time 9 years old rolled around, I knew with absolute certainty that I would never get what I wanted in life. And all I would do is suffer for the rest of my life. So that's the first time I wanted it in my life, was at 9 years old, right? Found out last year I'm autistic, which kind of makes sense for a lot of everything. But essentially, I've had to deal with those thoughts pretty much my entire life. And that's why I went in the whole military, national intelligence, national security intelligence route. Was I had to give myself a reason and a purpose to live. Because when you don't want to have one, when you don't have one, like you've got to give yourself a reason to keep going. Your mind's got to find a reason to persuade you. And so that was serving that greater good, serving that higher cause, being the knight in shining armor, standing between the darkness and light, that kind of thing, protecting people from stuff that shouldn't happen to them. But again, 45 years old, 2020, the world doesn't want to be saved. So now that reason doesn't work anymore at all.
Mm-hmm.
So shifted to helping people one-on-one. Okay, and I got some reason to live, but I still can't get what I need. And I'm tired of throwing myself under the bus. I'm tired of doing without. And if I can't find a way to fix myself to where I can actually get what I need in life, this ain't worth living. And I am freaking done suffering. Right. So that's what really drove me through that whole self-improvement thing of like, I have got to figure this out. I've got to figure out what the finish line is. I've got to get myself across it, or this ain't worth it. So it's either figure it out or put a bullet in my head, to be entirely blunt.
Yeah. And it's something that a lot of our brothers and sisters in arms have led to. I've had that battle, and it's real. Finding purpose, especially afterwards. And then I've had shows on special needs kids. I have special needs kids, and getting them diagnosed early and being able to treat things effectively when they're young helps for development later. It will help for later. And on top of the things that you're going through life and finding purpose, you figure out that you're not deciphering life like everybody else. You figure this out early, and then you're still thrown into the world, and you don't have something to, okay, this is what's up with me, and this is how I deal with it. You never got that. You get that later, and it blows your mind, because here you thought you were and you're trying to deal with because the world isn't quite meant for people that deal with those things in the spectrum. Now tell me, now with hypnosis, you talked about how it deals with the back part of the brain. Like when I've sat there through therapy, and I've done a lot of it. But yeah, tell me more about this and how did that and this and that, and this is how you cope and this and that. Tell me how hypnosis is different. You talked about it reaches the back sphere. Give me kind of an example of how that works.
Okay, so we're sitting down in therapy, we're having a conversation, right? And so the conversation we're having is about how I understand the things that have happened in my life. So I've only got limited access to my memories, and there's a story I've created that makes sense, is rational, so forth and so on. So we're having this conversation, and things are making sense, but it doesn't actually change how we feel. It doesn't change how we process any of that stuff. In hypnosis, we have this concept called the critical factor. It's the barrier or the wall between the conscious and the unconscious mind. And what that means is that your unconscious mind judges true and false based on what it already believes. So if I believe that I'm not good enough, you can tell me I'm awesome all day and it doesn't match. Like, it's ignored. But you tell me I'm a piece of crap, yeah, that matches, we're good to go. I feel that. So one of the difficulties with things like therapy and things like that, whenever you're in your conscious state, it's not reaching back there. You're not changing in the ways that your mind processes the world. It's this idea of feelings don't care about or facts don't care about your feelings. Feelings don't care about your facts.
Yeah.
So you can talk about that thing all day long. You can understand it rationally and logically all day long, and it does not change how you feel, because that's not how it works. And part of the reason why is this very left brain versus right brain issue. Okay. The left brain is very detail oriented, individual events, this story, this thing happened, it means this, right? Your emotional brain is looking at that 30,000 foot view. Patterns over time, stories over time, narratives over time, forest versus trees. Okay. And the thing is, our mind is using both of these at the same time. Both of them are interpreting reality at the same time, all the time. And they're coming up with different conclusions because they're looking at things through different lenses with different sets of belief. So they're obviously going to come up with different conclusions. And so it's not that one is right and one is wrong. No, they're both 100% correct at each time. But the normal way to deal with things is, I understand this, I know this, so this must be wrong. No, not the way it works. Okay. The reason why, and one of the big things is there is a reason why you feel all the things you feel. There's a point when we're really young, we don't really have our rationality, our logical mind really doesn't come online until 5, 6, 7 years old, right? So before that, we're dealing with things on a very emotional level, very high level, general principles, patterns, right? So we're coming up with very simplistic explanations for how the world is, how it works, and who we are. Once that rationality comes online, that critical factor comes into place. Now this is truth forever. And from then on, everything that happens in our life is interpreted through these old beliefs.
Right.
Making sense. This is setting the context through which we interpret everything else. So if we can get access to that part of our mind that has these old beliefs, open up the door to subconscious mind, get down there, now we can understand how these things came to be. And we can change these. Okay. There's a chain of logic that was created that, right? This happened, it means this about me. This is what it means, and this is how I need to navigate the world. So if we can understand that chain of logic, we can go ahead and disprove that chain of logic with an updated beliefs that we have, right? Because looking at it from a children's point of view as opposed to an adult point of view, understand the world a lot better from a lot more sophisticated perspective. So we can disprove that old chain of logic and create a new chain of logic to draw a different conclusion from the same events. And when we do that, we change things from I'm not good enough to I am good enough. from there's something wrong with me to there's nothing wrong with me. And when you change that context, now everything in your life from then on and in the past is now reinterpreted through a different lens. Okay. And this has a really big implications for things like PTSD, trauma, and so forth and so on. Okay. Because there's a DoD study trying to find out why some people get PTSD and some people don't. You got a platoon of guys get hit in an ambush, whatever, everything goes to hell. Why do some people in the platoon get PTSD and others don't? What they found was it was very highly correlated with trait neuroticism. Neuroticism is that tendency you have towards negative thinking, right? So the more tendency you have towards negative thinking, the higher chance you have of PTSD. Okay. So you're carrying into that event a tendency towards negative thinking. You have a negative opinion of yourself, and you're a piece of crap, you can't get everything right, not good enough, you screw up, whatever that happens to be. All right. Then this catastrophic event happens. And two things happen when that happens. Number one, it confirms beyond any doubt whatsoever that you are this negative thing you think about yourself. You are a screw up. You are messed up. And because you are this thing, that's why this catastrophic event happened. It's your fault. Right?
Yeah.
So if we can get back there and address that low level belief and say, I'm not a screw up. There's nothing wrong with me. I'm not a bad person. I'm fine. Now all of a sudden that catastrophic thing happened, but it's not because of you. It doesn't confirm this negative thing about you, which means this is a lot easier to deal with. Right. The same thing with like suicide and so forth and so on. You are in a space where you don't feel like you have options. You have this very negative opinion of yourself. So if we can change that, this other stuff goes away. It's a lot easier to deal with. Now it's just life is happening. It doesn't have anything to do with me. It ain't about me.
How effective, and I don't want to use that word. Let me not use that word. That's not where I'm trying to go with it. How does it work on everybody? Is everybody able to be hypnotized? Do they have to dig into a certain thing? How do you get there?
Sure. So hypnosis is just a set of tools that we use to get access to the subconscious mind. Quite frankly, it's like a guided meditation. We're just taking you another level deeper in your mind. Okay. Can everybody be hypnotized? Yes, if they want to be. If they want to be. And this is the key. Hypnosis is a voluntary process. I'm not doing it to you. I'm leading you through the process.
Oh.
It's like a dance, right? I'm leading you down to this place. I'm leading you through this process, which means that you have to be willing to go along with it. Okay. That's step number one. Step number two, the work that I'm doing, yes, we have to go digging around in your past, right? Which means you have to be willing to face the things about yourself you don't like, the things you wish weren't true. Not necessarily go see the worst parts of things, right? Because again, a series of events happened. All of it kind of means the same thing. So you can give me any example that's going to be safe. So I ain't got to see the worst because it all means the same shit. So why put yourself through that? Doesn't make sense. You don't have to, right? But you have to be willing to go where we need to go. You have to be willing to confront this dark stuff, right?
The same is true with therapy. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Therapy, but therapy, like it's a lot easier because you're hiding behind that wall still. You're just talking, right? So you can still play that game of, I'm not really here, not this, we're not going to go over here. If I've got direct access to your unconscious mind, I got access to all of it. Good luck hiding. Especially from somebody who's got 23 years of intelligence experience, good luck.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure that stuff out. That's what I do. That's how this thing is built. But number three, you have to be willing to be wrong. Because there's a story you're telling yourself about how you are, the way you are, and how this all came to be. And if you were right about it all, you would have fixed it already. So there has to be something about that story and that understanding that's incorrect or incomplete. And since we don't know what it is, could be anything, you have to be willing to question everything. All right.
And how difficult is that part, right? That part, right? I say that, how difficult, because accepting that you're wrong, it affects people on different levels. It really 100%. Does. And you understand that as you're doing this.
100%.
What have you seen with that part while you're going through it?
There's only two people that I've worked with that I haven't really been able to help. And both of those people had very severe levels of self-loathing, self-hatred. They blamed the ever-living crap out of themselves. And there was no other possible reason, no other possible explanation. Right? That kind of person I can't help. Anybody else I probably can. But when you're talking about like trauma and being PTSD and all this kind of stuff, you got to be in a fairly stable place for me to do this work, right? I can't do this with just anybody. You get somebody who's heavily in it, like I can't touch them. It's just too much, right? They can't go there. It's too threatening. There's too much heavy emotional response. I can't work with you. But that's okay because you've got all these other therapeutic tools. You've got your therapy and your trauma stuff and your cognitive behavioral therapy and your EMDR and psychedelics and stuff like that, right? So that gets you to the 20-yard line. But at that point, that stuff can't get you any further. Spinning your wheels stuck. Mine is designed to get you from 20 yards across the goal line. But you got to get here first.
Talk to me about one of the experiences that led you to believe this is my purpose. this is how I'm serving. Talk to me about an experience while doing this that you really, wow, this is it.
I've had that for quite a while. And that's just because every time I'd work with somebody, their life would be better. Right. Every single time, problem would be solved, their life would be better. And so I'm having that contribution, that feedback loop the whole time. Trying to save the world. You do some stuff over there nobody knows about, may or may not have any effect. You have no idea. So at least I'm getting this feedback loop. And as I was doing all this work on myself, I was seeing all these major changes. Right. Doing this work on myself and like coming up with these new theories and new ideas and understanding the mind in a different way meant that I was able to unlock and do things that other people didn't really think were possible. Right. But I had one client come to me. One guy came to me. He's a Gulf War veteran, Bronze Star awarded. He was actually living in a homeless shelter for veterans. Man. And he was like on that edge where he's the only reason I'm still around is because of my daughter. I'm like, oh crap, this guy is that close.
Yeah.
Can't afford me. I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and work for you. I'm not gonna freaking let you fail. I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen. Mm-hmm. So a couple sessions, I got him completely unlocked on his way, moved out, got a girlfriend, living a great life. But being able to bring somebody back from the edge like that and set them on a completely different path makes everything worth it. 100%.
That is pretty awesome when you get to lead somebody from there, because there's a lot of broken people out there, and a lot of broken people, and I'm sure you've run into them. And now, what does that cycle look like as far as when they get in there? Is it an hour long, something that you're working through?
Sure.
What's that kind of process like?
Yeah. So my sessions are 90 minutes long, and typically the whole process start to end is about 3 or 4 sessions. Okay. I'm not we sit here, keep on working, screw that. There's a finish line. Let's get you across it. I'm a very results oriented guy. I'm a Marine Corps, A to B. I'm gonna make that thing happen. I don't care what's in the way. But the thing is, there's really only 4 things we really have to fix. That's it. Okay. The first one, and this is probably the most counterintuitive one, we have to fix the idea that emotions are pain. Right? Emotional pain comes from emotional wounds caused by emotional traumas. That's what everybody says. That's the way everybody talks about that. But when you're looking at emotions as pain, now you have to avoid them all because they're painful. Got to run from that shit. That's what that survival part of your brain says. Mm-hmm. And those heavy emotions do what? They kick off that survival part of your brain. That's what's causing that major flight. And when you think emotions are pain, emotions kill. 300,000 people last year died from deaths of despair. How people felt killed over 300,000 people last year because they thought emotions were pain. But that's not what they are. Pain is to say you burn, your hand hurts. This is busted. You need to fix it. That physical sensation we feel when emotions are pain are one of 2 things. It's either your body preparing to do something or it's going through a process. If I feel afraid, that's my body preparing to run because I'm supposed to get away from something. If I'm having sadness, I'm sobbing and heaving from grief. That's my body processing that loss. If that's the case, everything's working as it's supposed to, functioning exactly as designed. Body's doing exactly as it's supposed to. That ain't broken. There's nothing to fix. That ain't pain.
Yeah. Wow.
That's not pain. That's not what that is. But there's a second piece of emotion. There's that cognitive piece, the psychological piece, is what that thing means. And every negative emotion is just your mind asking you for help to solve a problem. You're afraid you're supposed to be getting away from something, right? Mm-hmm. You're sad because you lost something. How do I get it back? How do I get something to replace it? I'm ashamed. I failed to meet a standard. Great. How do I meet the standard? It's just a question. Just asking you how to solve a problem. So in a lot of ways, number one, if emotions are pain, emotional trauma doesn't, or emotional wounds don't exist, so there's nothing that ever freaking was. Doing it wrong. Number 3, trauma takes on a very different meaning. Trauma is any situation where you could not find a way to win. You're in this situation, trying to figure out how to navigate this thing. Your mind is screaming at you at full volume to help, and you don't have an answer.
Yeah.
That's what that is. But 2 things. Number 1, there's 5 survival responses, not 2. It's not fight or flight. It's fight, flight, freeze, fawn, and flop. That hiding, surrender. Flop is a very interesting one. Nobody talks about this one.
Yeah.
See 2 guys scrapping in the schoolyard. Crowd forms around him. One of them starts losing. Tries to get away. Can't. What does he do? Hits the ground, curls up a ball, protects his head, protects his stomach, and just takes it until it's over. Flop is I don't have any options, so I'm just going to endure. Right? Depression. Right. But here's the thing. In all the situations where you had a trauma, where you couldn't find a way to win, you're still breathing though. You successfully executed number 5. You endured the situation long enough to get out.
Oh, yep.
And that's a win. That's a win of some kind.
Yeah.
But because we're thinking about it in terms of fight and flight, anytime we're hurt that bad, we must have lost. So you fight something off, you don't get hurt. Run away, don't get hurt.
Yeah.
So you combine that with the idea of emotional pain. Anytime you have that severe emotional response, you lost. That's a threat to your survival.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And until you
Oh,
figure out how to navigate that, your mind is going to keep bringing it up until you can figure that stuff out. That's why you have all those flashbacks over and over again.
oh. And this stuff applies to me. It talks to me and a lot of other vets. Now, we have a lot of us, our brothers and sisters in arms, deal with survival's guilt. If I would have done this, or maybe if I would have done that I have had a situation like that where I had another sailor under my wing and he got killed in a horrific way. And maybe if I could have, and years of pain on that ensued. And it still hurts, but it's different now. But when you dig deep, when you're digging deep into this hypnosis sessions, what is there a common roadblock that you find when you get into the subconscious? Is there a common thing, or everybody's different? Their roadblock might be different. Talk to me about that.
Let me go through the rest of the three things that we got to fix, and then I'll get on that piece because it's okay. The second thing we need to fix is the idea that you're the problem, or that you need to be fixed, right? Because again, we feel pain. Where's the pain? We feel it in here. We feel it in here. So we think this is the thing that needs to be fixed, right? When we're talking about emotions as pain, we feel it in here, feel it in here. This has got to be where the problem is. So we keep on trying to fix ourselves. That's not right. Given how this is wired, given how we're built, everything's working fine. Organs tend to function exactly as designed, right? I'm autistic. I should be having these kinds of troubles. I'm bipolar. Of course, I've got these problems. Given how I'm wired, everything's working the way it's supposed to. So it's not that this needs to be fixed. Given how I'm wired, how do I need to navigate the world? How do I need to get to what I want? Right? That's the problem. The problem is always out there. It's not in here. Okay. Number three, got to get you value. Got to have self-esteem. Right? But number one, if you need to fix yourself, that means you're broken things aren't valuable. If you're wounded, got to fix yourself. That means you're broken. Broken things aren't valuable. So we got to fix those two first, and then we can create value. But the problem is, if you're measuring things, the answer can always be not enough.
It often is.
Made $1 million. That guy's 5. Not enough. I got my 10. That guy's got 100. Not enough. So you have to create that value in a way that doesn't have to be measured, to where you don't have to prove anything to yourself or somebody else. A little bit tricky, but found some ways to do it. In terms of common roadblocks, there's really just, it all comes down to a couple major themes. Again, emotions, right? Very high level, very generic. I'm not good enough. Something wrong with me. I don't deserve. I can't protect myself. I don't have any agency. I don't have any power. Pretty much all variations on that thing. Right? How it shows up, the individual stories, how they frame it, so forth and so on. All kind of individual. Everybody's got their own path, but all kinds of comes up to those 5 things. The individual blocks you see in your life are just those big themes applied to individual situations. There's something wrong with me, so my friend died. I'm not good enough, so my friend died.
Oh.
Welcome to survival skip.
Yeah.
It's your fault. You weren't good enough. There's something wrong with you. You didn't have the agency. It's your fault. But the reality is, if you could have done anything different, you freaking would have. Right? So the reality is you did. Yeah, the reality is you did absolutely everything you could, given who you were, given what you knew, given what you're capable of in the moment.
Yeah. Wow.
Right?
Wow. Yeah, I'm sitting here and I'm processing the stuff because it's a lot of information, but it's so good.
Yeah.
It would have helped me in this journey a little bit. And I'm sure that it helps many of our brothers and sisters in arms in this journey that they're on. Because we're all on different parts of the journey. I'm on the other side of the tunnel of the darkness. I'm on the other side of that, but I know brothers and sisters who are still in that darkness, and this kind of stuff can really help. If somebody wants to get a hold of you or talk to you about this process, and is it something that you had said you started in this pandemic, so you did it online? Can you talk about those things?
Sure. So my website is www.ryanthehypnotist.com. There's a form on there. Go ahead and sign up for a call. We'll do a quick 45-minute consultation, dig into what's going on in your life. I'll let you know why things are the way they are, why you're stuck the way you're stuck, why the things you have been doing before haven't really worked for you. We'll talk about going forward. The way I work is I don't care. You don't pay for individual sessions. I think that's stupid, right? There's that set of beliefs that we want to get you to. Nothing wrong with me. Nothing good enough. Don't have to prove it. I work with you until we get you there. You pay my fee. We get you there. I don't care how long it takes. Typically, we're able to do it in 3 or 4 sessions to lay out all the foundational stuff, but never really know how much stuff is down there until we start digging around, right? Could take a little bit longer. Fair enough. I will work with you until it's done. I don't care how long it takes. If we have to meet every single week for a year, that's what we'll fucking do. You work with me. I refuse to let you fail. Period.
Wow.
All right. The way I would start, though, is I wrote a book. It's called Winner Peace, like inner peace, but winner peace, because people think you have to choose between the two. Screw that. I'm greedy. I want it all. It's, Winner Peace, how to end inner conflict, make success inevitable. It actually is my entire process that I work with all my clients, start to finish, the whole 9 yards. Mm-hmm. All the theory, everything you need to know. And it's created and drafted as a written hypnosis program. So to the extent that I can give you everything I can from working with me one-on-one in that format, I'm trying to give you as much of it as I can. So if you're interested in this stuff, if it's resonating at all, pick up that book. It's going to get the ball rolling. It's going to start making these changes. Okay. So you can start using some of these tools. And it's going to start making your life better really fast. Okay. I know what I'm talking about is very different because I had to figure all this stuff out myself. I only put this stuff together in the past year, and I had a bipolar episode last year. Found out the hard way I was bipolar. So spent past 14 months trying to get my head on straight with all medications and stuff like that. That was a rough journey. So I've only been up and running again full time for about 2 months now, trying to get this word out, trying to get these things out. And I'm actually trying to work with a veterans group here in Austin to start doing some clinical trials and see if we can't do some public-private partnerships, do some clinical trials to see if we can't scientifically validate this and maybe start getting this more widespread so more veterans can get that treatment.
I love that. I love that. Brother, thank you so much for helping people, because it says a lot about you, Ryan, that you went through this bipolar episode. You find out you're autistic when you're grown. You've gone through the things that you've gone through. Yep. And what do? You go and help people. I love having people like you on the show that help people, that do something for society, that when they got to hang it up, and hopefully no time soon, brother, but when the time comes to hang it up, what did you do with I saved somebody. I did something for somebody. And it was a blessing all the way through. On my show, the guest has the last word, so I'm going to go ahead and let you have it. But before I do, I'm going to have his links. You should be able to find the links in the description for how to get a hold of Ryan and his book. And I'm going to have it all on there so you guys can look it up, and please look into it. And he's doing great work. I'm going to give you the last word.
Oh man. The only thing I would say is every problem has a solution. All right. That's all you got to remember. Every problem has a solution, and all you got to do is be curious. As long as you're curious, you're willing to work the problem, you will in fact find your way out. Okay. And if you're banging against your head against the wall because it's not working, you don't understand something, take a step back. The problems are really easy to solve once you understand the problem. Once you actually figure out what the problem is, the solution is really simple. So if it's complicated, you don't understand it, you got to take a step back, ask some more questions. Okay. But all you got to do is be curious. If you can't figure it out on your own, find somebody who can help you figure it out.
Yeah. You're not alone. You're not alone. You can do it. You can get the help. Don't give up. Don't give up, folks.
100%.
Just don't give up.
100%.
Thanks a lot, Ryan, for being on. Can you stick around real quick after the show?
Certainly can.
Thank you.